Hi everyone, welcome to English Story School, where we bring the magic of storytelling to life, helping you improve your English one captivating story at a time. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to stumble upon a long-lost treasure map? A piece of parchment so old, its edges are frayed, and the ink is barely legible, yet the promise of adventure calls to you like the distant roar of the sea. What would you do if you held the key to a pirate's most guarded secret? The story begins centuries ago, when the high seas were ruled by notorious pirates, none more feared than Captain Redbeard. Legend has it that Redbeard amassed a fortune so vast that even kings envied him. But where is it? According to myth, before his demise, Redbeard created a map leading to his hidden trove of gold, gems, and priceless artifacts. Over the years, countless sailors and adventurers searched for this elusive map, but none was successful. Until one stormy night, it resurfaced. The discovery of the pirate's secret map was nothing short of fate, especially for a young sailor named Jack. Jack wasn't the kind of man you'd expect to stumble upon something so extraordinary. He wasn't a wealthy merchant or a renowned explorer. In fact, Jack was just a sailor, one among many who sailed the seas, often facing more misfortune than success. He had no family to speak of, no grand tale of heroism attached to his name, and certainly no fortune waiting for him in the harbor. He was, in the truest sense, down on his luck. But as life would have it, sometimes the sea rewards those who've been battered by its waves. One stormy evening, when Jack had sought refuge on a small, isolated beach after days of rough sailing, something peculiar caught his eye. Amid the debris washed ashore by the storm, there was an old, rusted chest, half buried in the sand. It didn't look like much at first glance, just another relic lost to time, perhaps discarded by some unlucky ship that met its fate in the tempest. Yet something about it drew Jack closer, an inexplicable pull that he couldn't ignore. He approached it cautiously, prying the chest open with the edge of his weathered knife. Inside, there was no glittering treasure, no gold coins spilling from its corners, just a single piece of parchment, fragile and yellowed with age. Jack's heart sank momentarily, disappointed at the sight of what seemed like an old, tattered map. But as he unfurled the parchment, he realized that this was no ordinary chart. The first thing that caught Jack's attention was the ink. It was faded, but the symbols were unlike anything he had ever seen. Strange, cryptic markings sprawled across the map in winding patterns. Some appeared to be ancient runes, while others resembled geometric shapes that seemed to hide deeper meanings. Alongside these symbols were riddles, written in a peculiar script, hinting at locations Jack had only heard of in legends. One landmark in particular, a jagged mountain rising from the sea, was something Jack knew had never been charted on any sailor's map. It was as though this map pointed to a world beyond what even the most seasoned captains had explored. As Jack traced his fingers along the lines and symbols, a realization dawned on him. This was no simple treasure map. Redbeard, the infamous pirate whose fortune was the stuff of myth, had clearly designed this map to outwit anyone foolish enough to chase after his hoard. It wasn't just about finding an X on a sandy shore. It was about solving a puzzle. Only those with the sharpest minds, the most cunning instincts, and the will to push beyond the obvious would have any hope of uncovering what Redbeard had hidden. This revelation stirred something deep within Jack. He had spent his life in the shadows of other men's triumphs, but here, in his hands, was his chance, his opportunity to make a name for himself, to step out of obscurity and into legend. The map was more than just a key to treasure. It was a test of wit, determination, and courage. Redbeard had hidden his fortune behind layers of mystery, and Jack quickly realized that many had likely perished in pursuit of it. Yet that didn't deter him. In fact, it only fueled his desire. He wasn't after riches alone, he was after something greater, the thrill of discovery, the chance to prove himself worthy of the challenge laid before him. And so, as the storm clouds cleared and the first rays of dawn illuminated the mysterious map in his hands, Jack knew his life would never be the same. The hunt for Redbeard's treasure had begun, and Jack was ready to face whatever dangers the pirate's secret map would throw his way. After all, in a world where fortune favors the bold, Jack was determined to be the boldest of them all. What truly makes the pirate's secret map so captivating is not merely the treasure it promises, but the sheer enigma that surrounds it. You see, most pirate maps, the ones whispered about in taverns and scrawled hastily on scraps of parchment, were straightforward, practically child's play. The classic trope of the X marking the spot, leading directly to where the treasure lay buried, was well known. Pirates wanted their bounty found quickly and discreetly, often because they'd return for it before anyone else could get their hands on it. But this map, Redbeard's map, was different. In fact, it was the exact opposite of what any seasoned pirate would expect. At first glance, you might think the map was just a confusing jumble of symbols and cryptic riddles, seemingly meaningless. But as Jack pored over its intricate details, he realized that these symbols weren't arbitrary marks. They were deliberate, cleverly disguised clues. The map didn't point to a single location with an X, but rather to multiple destinations, each holding a piece of the puzzle. It was as if Redbeard had scattered breadcrumbs across the globe, daring anyone to follow his twisted trail. Some of the symbols pointed to well-known regions, the jagged cliffs of the Canary Islands, the treacherous waters near the Bermuda Triangle, but others seemed to reference places that no sailor had ever charted before. Uncharted islands, long-forgotten caves hidden beneath dense jungles, mountain ranges with peaks that scraped the sky. These were the kind of locations where only the most daring explorers would venture. The riddles themselves were written in a poetic but arcane language, hinting at dangers that lurked along the path. "Beware the island where the sun never sets," one riddle read. Was it a warning about endless daylight, or something far more sinister? What puzzled Jack the most was why Redbeard would go to such extraordinary lengths to obscure the location of his treasure. Most pirates wanted their fortune to be easily accessible for when they needed it. They hid it temporarily, usually to retrieve it later, or they trusted their crew with the location. But Redbeard seemed to have a different mindset altogether. Why was he so obsessed with ensuring that only someone who could solve the intricate layers of his map would find his treasure? The stories surrounding the map grew even more outlandish the more Jack researched them. Some said the map was cursed, that anyone who came too close to solving it would meet a terrible fate. In fact, several ships that had pursued rumors of Redbeard's treasure had mysteriously vanished at sea. Was it simply bad luck, or was there a curse attached to this legendary fortune? One theory suggested that Redbeard had made a pact with dark forces, ensuring that his riches would be forever protected from those unworthy of them. Could it be that the treasure was so valuable, so powerful, that Redbeard believed it was his duty to keep it hidden? There was also talk of the treasure itself being more than just gold and jewels. Some whispered that Redbeard had come into possession of something far greater, an ancient artifact with immense power, perhaps even something supernatural. A relic from lost civilizations, maybe, or a weapon so dangerous that it could shift the balance of power across the world. If this were true, it would explain why Redbeard had made his map so fiendishly difficult to decipher. He wasn't merely hiding wealth. He was protecting something that could, in the wrong hands, alter the course of history. The deeper Jack delved into these possibilities, the more he realized that this map was not just a tool for finding treasure. It was a challenge, a game designed by Redbeard to weed out the unworthy. Only someone clever enough, brave enough, and possibly reckless enough would be able to solve the riddles and reach the final destination. But even if they did, what awaited them? Was it truly treasure, or something far more dangerous? As Jack traced the lines of the map and began connecting its mysterious symbols to potential real-world locations, he couldn't shake the feeling that Redbeard had been playing a long game. The pirate captain had clearly intended his fortune to remain hidden unless someone worthy came along. And now, as Jack stood on the precipice of that discovery, he couldn't help but wonder, had Redbeard succeeded in keeping his secrets safe all this time, or was Jack about to unlock something the world was never meant to find? It wasn't just the promise of gold that drove Jack forward. It was the mystery, the allure of solving a puzzle that had eluded treasure hunters for generations. This was not merely about riches, it was about proving his worth, outsmarting the ghost of Redbeard himself, and maybe, just maybe, uncovering something far more valuable than gold could ever buy. In the end, the pirate's secret map wasn't just a guide, it was a test of wit, courage, and the understanding that some treasures are hidden for a reason. The real question was, should Jack be the one to find it? As Jack set sail on the journey to uncover Redbeard's elusive treasure, he quickly realized that this would be no ordinary adventure. What lay ahead wasn't just a race to find gold, but a test of endurance, intellect, and heart. The map, with its cryptic symbols and riddles, had sent him across treacherous seas and toward unknown dangers. But for every step closer he got, it seemed as though the world itself conspired to keep Redbeard's secret buried forever. One of the first obstacles Jack encountered came from his own kind, rival treasure hunters. The legend of Redbeard's treasure had long since spread among sailors, mercenaries, and fortune seekers. Jack wasn't the first to chase after it, and he certainly wasn't the only one interested in cracking the map's code. As he ventured into remote harbors and whispered of his findings to trusted shipmates, word inevitably got out. Soon, others were hot on his trail. Hunters who had no qualms about using force to claim the treasure for themselves. These rival treasure hunters were ruthless, driven not by curiosity or the thrill of the chase, but by greed. Jack had barely begun his quest when he found himself in a deadly game of cat and mouse with men who would kill to possess even a piece of Redbeard's fabled hoard. More than once, he was ambushed in the dead of night, forced to flee under the cover of darkness, or engage in fierce skirmishes at sea. Pirates from faraway waters, mercenaries, and even former comrades turned against him. Trust became a rare commodity, and Jack learned quickly that his quest for treasure also demanded sharp instincts and constant vigilance. But it wasn't just human enemies Jack had to contend with. Nature itself seemed determined to test his resolve. The open sea was an unpredictable beast, and Jack often found himself battling violent storms that threatened to capsize his ship and send his crew to the depths of the ocean. Massive waves crashed against his vessel, forcing him to navigate through sheer willpower as the wind howled and the rain lashed down. He lost count of the nights spent fighting to keep his ship from splitting in two, clinging to his compass and Redbeard's map as though they were lifelines. The map, however, proved just as treacherous as the sea. Redbeard had been a master of deception. And Jack soon realized that the pirates' riddles were laced with traps, both physical and mental. Each new discovery brought with it hidden dangers. Some clues led to desolate islands, where the remnants of past treasure hunters lay as a grim reminder of the cost of failure. There were booby traps, expertly designed to catch the unwary. Jack had to navigate hidden pitfalls, collapsing caverns, and crumbling cliffs, with every step requiring absolute precision. One wrong move, and the journey could end in disaster. Yet, despite the constant threats, with each obstacle Jack overcame, he found himself growing not just as a treasure hunter, but as a person. The journey began to shape him in ways he had never expected. The treasure, while still tantalizing, became secondary to the lessons he was learning about himself and the world around him. Jack was not the man he had been when he first set eyes on that weathered map. The hardships, the battles, and the narrow escapes had instilled in him a sense of resilience he never knew he had. The endless nights at sea taught him patience, and the constant danger taught him the importance of quick thinking and adaptability. One of the most profound lessons Jack learned on his quest was about loyalty. While the rival treasure hunters he faced were driven by selfish greed, Jack found that his success hinged on the strength of his crew. These men and women had stuck by him through thick and thin, risking their lives for a cause they could easily have abandoned. They became more than just shipmates. They became family. Their loyalty wasn't bought with promises of gold. It was earned through shared trials, victories, and close calls. Jack learned that true loyalty came from trust and respect, built slowly over time through actions rather than words. In the face of danger, Jack's courage was tested again and again. He had no choice but to confront his fears, whether it was the fear of being outsmarted by a rival, the terror of facing the unknown depths of the ocean, or the overwhelming anxiety of not knowing if he was on the right path. Each time Jack felt doubt creeping in, he reminded himself of what was at stake, not just in terms of wealth, but in terms of proving himself worthy of the challenge Redbeard had set. He learned that courage didn't mean the absence of fear, but the ability to press forward despite it. Along the way, Jack also gained a deeper appreciation for the pirates' code of honor. Despite the cutthroat nature of many in the treasure-hunting world, he encountered a few old sailors who still believed in a certain code, one that upheld respect, fairness, and integrity among pirates. They spoke of Redbeard not as a mindless plunderer, but as a man who adhered to a strict personal code. Jack began to understand that Redbeard's map wasn't just a game to keep his riches hidden. It was a test of character. Only someone who understood the nuances of honor, courage, and loyalty would ever have a chance of finding the treasure. With every clue Jack deciphered, he felt a sense of accomplishment, as though he were inching closer not just to the treasure, but to becoming the kind of man Redbeard might have respected. The map demanded more than just skill or cunning. It required the heart of a true adventurer. Jack's journey wasn't just about the gold at the end. It was about proving his worth, about seeing if he had what it took to conquer the greatest challenge of his life. In the end, it became clear to Jack that the journey itself was as valuable as the treasure. The obstacles he faced, whether from rival hunters, nature's fury, or the complex riddles, became opportunities for growth. The hardships he endured shaped him into a stronger, wiser, and more honorable man. The treasure, while still a tantalizing goal, began to symbolize something more profound: the triumph of perseverance, the bonds of loyalty, and the unyielding courage to continue against all odds. Each discovery wasn't just a step toward Redbeard's fortune, but a step toward understanding who Jack truly was. And as he stood on the brink of the final clue, he knew that whatever awaited him at the end of this journey, he had already found something far more valuable, the man he had become through it all. But what happened next? Did Jack really manage to unearth the legendary treasure that had tantalized countless adventurers, or was he merely another victim of Redbeard's final, brilliant ruse? As the story of the pirate's secret map unfolds, it becomes clear that this is no straightforward tale of riches. It is a saga layered with deception, mystery, and the sheer unpredictability of the pirate's world. Imagine Jack standing on the brink of discovery, the wind howling as he approaches what he believes to be the final destination marked on the map. His heart races, his hands grip the weathered parchment tightly, and every fiber of his being screams that he is on the verge of greatness. The journey has been grueling. Rival treasure hunters, the wrath of the sea, and Redbeard's cunning traps have taken their toll. Yet here he stands, just moments away from the treasure that has driven generations of men to madness. But this moment is not without its doubts. As Jack looks around the barren landscape, where the final clue has led him, something feels off. There's no sign of gold, no gleaming chests hidden beneath the sand, no clues to suggest that unimaginable riches await him. It's eerily quiet, too quiet. Jack has been deceived by false clues before, each one cleverly leading him to dead ends, and for a brief moment, a chilling thought crosses his mind. Was this all just an elaborate trick? Redbeard was not only known for his ruthless plundering, but also for his mind. A pirate feared across the seas, he wasn't the type to let his wealth fall easily into anyone's hands. What if the map wasn't really a guide to treasure, but a wild goose chase, a trap designed to mislead, confuse, and ultimately deter any would-be treasure hunter? What if the real treasure was never meant to be found? Could Redbeard have used his map as a final act of defiance, a way to ensure that his fortune would never be claimed? This notion isn't without precedent. Throughout pirate lore, there have been whispers of treasures so great that their owners took extreme measures to protect them. Some say Redbeard, knowing his days were numbered, crafted the map with deliberate false leads and hidden pitfalls, ensuring that only someone as cunning as himself could ever come close to his gold. To some, the map wasn't just a guide, it was a test of intelligence, patience, and perseverance. To others, it was a final jest by a pirate who had spent his life outwitting foes and escaping certain death. What better way to preserve his legacy than to leave behind a trail of riddles no one could solve? Yet, even with these doubts clouding his mind, Jack presses on. The story of the pirate's secret map is nothing if not a tale of perseverance. For Jack, it's more than just about the treasure. It's about proving that he could succeed where so many others had failed. Every step he took, every clue he unraveled, brought him closer to understanding the mind of Redbeard. The map's cryptic nature wasn't just a challenge, it was a conversation between two men, separated by time, yet connected by the same lust for adventure. And now, standing at the supposed final location, Jack feels the weight of that connection more than ever. But as the minutes tick by and no treasure reveals itself, the sense of triumph begins to fade. The sandy dunes stretch endlessly before him, barren and empty. Jack's crew, exhausted from the journey, begins to murmur among themselves. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps there is nothing here. Maybe Redbeard had played them all, leading them to chase shadows and empty promises. Or maybe, just maybe, The treasure lies beneath the surface, hidden in a way that only someone with true pirate instincts could uncover. Jack knows that Redbeard would never have made the final resting place of his fortune obvious. There had to be another layer to this puzzle, another secret buried beneath the obvious. Jack had faced obstacles and survived countless trials to get this far. Why would he stop now? The tension builds as Jack sifts through his memories of the journey, piecing together every clue, every subtle hint the map had given him. Redbeard wasn't one to leave anything to chance. Each symbol, each riddle, had been carefully placed, leading Jack deeper into the mind of the pirate. Perhaps the real treasure wasn't gold at all. Perhaps the real reward lay in the journey itself, the lessons learned, the friendships forged, the trials endured. Or perhaps the treasure was something more abstract, hidden not in material riches, but in the legacy Redbeard had crafted for himself. Some say that at that moment, Jack realized the true meaning of the map, that the treasure had never been about gold, jewels, or riches. It was about outsmarting the system, defying the odds, and becoming a legend in his own right. Others believe Jack found something far greater, the spirit of adventure itself, the drive to explore the unknown, and the satisfaction of solving a puzzle that had stumped so many before him. Yet there are still those who fervently insist that Jack did, in fact, discover the legendary treasure of Redbeard, one that had eluded the bravest and most cunning treasure hunters for decades. According to these tales, the treasure was buried deep beneath shifting sands, in a hidden chamber so well concealed that only the most determined and intelligent could hope to find it. The sands of time and nature were Redbeard's final accomplices, hiding his wealth from all but the worthiest. The story goes that after days of relentless digging, Jack stumbled upon the treasure when all hope seemed lost, uncovering a labyrinthine underground vault that stretched far below the surface. This wasn't just any treasure chest, filled with a handful of gold coins or trinkets. No, what Jack supposedly found was nothing short of extraordinary, a fortune that could change the course of history. Buried within the vault were piles of gleaming gold coins, enough to fill entire ships. But that was only the beginning. Glittering jewels, radiant as the sun, were said to have been scattered across the vault. Emeralds as green as the deepest forests, rubies that sparkled like drops of molten fire, and sapphires the color of the clearest ocean. These weren't just common gemstones, but relics of ancient empires, long lost to time, treasures once thought to be myths themselves. Among the priceless loot were also artifacts from far-off lands, curiosities that told stories of distant civilizations. There were delicate porcelain vases from the East, weapons forged in the fires of forgotten kingdoms, and intricately carved ivory statuettes that hinted at gods worshipped by cultures now erased from history. Redbeard's treasure, it seemed, wasn't just a hoard of wealth, but a collection of the world's most coveted wonders, gathered through years of ruthless conquest and adventure. But finding the treasure wasn't a simple matter of brute force. It was said that Jack had to navigate through a series of deadly traps that guarded the vault, ingenious mechanisms crafted by Redbeard himself to ensure that only the sharpest minds could access his riches. One wrong move, and Jack would have met a grisly fate, crushed by falling boulders or skewered by hidden spears. Yet through his quick thinking, and perhaps a touch of luck, Jack outwitted every trap laid before him. Each trap was designed not just to physically hinder, but to challenge the mind. Riddles inscribed on the walls, puzzles that required a deep understanding of the pirate's code, and even symbols that harkened back to ancient maritime lore. The whispers claim that when Jack finally reached the heart of the vault, the sight before him left him speechless. Among the riches stood the crown jewel of Redbeard's treasure, an intricately adorned throne made entirely of gold, said to have belonged to a long-forgotten ruler. Draped over the throne were tapestries embroidered with gold and silver thread, depicting Redbeard's grandest conquests and victories. This throne, according to legend, was the final piece of Redbeard's collection and represented the culmination of his power as the most feared pirate on the seas.